Space. So I'm over here with another episode of Mental Wealth. This time I gotta really check something. Here with another episode of Mental Wealth. Yes. Okay. Mic check. Make sure the sound's good. Mic check. I'm checking the sound over here. I'm live on Facebook. Mic check. I'm checking the sound over here. I'm live on Facebook. Mic check. Good. Okay, we good. So looking at today's topic right here, is mindset mapping for money moves, converting when confidence is low. This is powered by Wizetics OS life-based infrastructure, as you know. And we're going to be getting to it. Let me get to some of my notes right quick so I can stay on track. What we got? Mindset mapping for money moves, converting when confidence is low. Yep. Okay. I know yesterday I was up here with an episode. I was going live and my mic having some technical difficulties with the mic. I didn't realize it until I went back and looked at it. Like you couldn't really hear that clear. So I think we got it right this time right here. Coming with the real talk in real time. Wizetics Mental Wealth Podcast live. Where we advocate life is business and business is what? War. So, confidence isn't always about height. It's about structure. When your confidence drops, your conversions usually follow. So, it's coming with the idea of confidence, because confidence is not emotional, it's strategic. That's why I tell people, I move with the mindset of a conqueror. That's confidence. I wanted to talk about something else too, because I want to deal with some statistics dealing with current events with the layoffs. There's been a lot of layoffs taking place last month, in the month of October. It's a lot of layoffs that took place, and I want to kind of go over something in regards to that. I had it already. I probably got to go back and look at it again. Yep, I'm gonna have to go. Here we go, right here. Talking about the recent layoffs that's been going on. Because that's what prompted me to actually have, this talk right here, this mindset mapping for money moves, converting when confidence is low. So I'm gonna go and just get some information. What's been going on? So this is what we have right here. 10 major companies that announced large-scale layoffs in the last month. And so we have Amazon. They laid off 14,000 corporate jobs. They cut ties to cost reductions and AI automation initiatives. That was the context of why they cut those jobs. UPS cut 48,000 jobs. Large warehousing logistics footprint impacted by structural change was some of the context on that. Intel Corporation cut 20,000 jobs. Big tech hardware firm facing industry headwinds. What else we got? Microsoft cut 6,000 jobs. Corporate restructuring, early stage of cutbacks. Salesforce cut 4,000 jobs. Clarified as focusing on customer service support roles. Meta Platforms cut 600 in its AI division. Charter Communications cut 1,200 jobs. Telecom cable operator streamlining management roles. SAS Institute cut 400 jobs. That was in China though. So basically, according to Challenger, U.S. companies announced 153,074 job cuts in October 2025, the highest for the month in over 20 years. Yeah. So this wave of layoffs, it represents a structural shift in how global organizations are adapting to emerging technologies and changing market dynamics. For consultants, coaches, and workforce development professionals, this trend indicates increased opportunities in upskilling, digital transformation strategy, and business restructuring advisory services. It's kind of like technical, right? Technical stuff right there. What does that mean though? All these jobs being cut. So this is what I've been saying for a long time, that the entire framework of the economy is going to be shifting. So for those that's into entrepreneurship, this is a great time. For those that's not into entrepreneurship, it's still a great time because it opens the door. It kind of like push people to where they really need to get, where they really need to be getting to. Hold on, something shifted over here. I didn't mean to do that part right there. Wait a minute. I wasn't really trying to share my screen right here like this. Back like this right here. Okay, we back like this, right? So yeah, what does that mean? All these jobs being cut like that, layoffs, and it's like right in the fourth quarter where the holidays is kicking in. And then you got the government shutdown. And then you got a lot of people that didn't receive their SNAP benefits. So that's a lot. That's a lot going on all at one time. But this is why you say the servant that knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself shall be beaten with many stripes. So it's about preparation, having yourself prepared for these things. It says that I'm looking over the industry-wide snapshot. It says U.S. companies announced 153,074 job cuts in October 2025, which is roughly 175% higher than cuts in October 2024, and the highest monthly total for October since 2003. Through October, the total number of announced job cuts has reached 1,999,500 for the year, up 65% compared to the same period in 2024. The warehousing sector led the October cuts with 47,878 jobs announced for elimination. The technology sector announced 33,281 cuts for that month. Companies attribute much of the increase to cost cutting, automations, and AI acceleration, weaker consumer demand, and structural shifts in how work is done. Why does this matter? So, this spike signals that we may be moving beyond a no hire, no fire market into one where structural changes are causing meaningful job reductions. For those working in sectors that are heavy in automation, warehousing, or tech support, the risks are growing for job instability. For coaching, consulting clients, this could translate to increased demand for services around career transitions, upskilling, business pivots, or consulting on automation readiness. So that's where it's at. AI. A lot of these jobs were lost due to AI. A lot of these jobs were just automated. So this is why you're gonna have to learn how to use AI and how to leverage AI for yourself. Because ultimately, in life, a lot of times we get pressured to go in places where we already were supposed to be at. And because we didn't take that initiative, then sometimes life formulates circumstances that compel you to go where you already were supposed to be. And then, if you resist or reject the signs and the signals, then sometimes you could be um in a situation where now you on the end of a spectrum that you don't have to be. So we're gonna get more into it. What this topic is mindset mapping for money moves. And mindset mapping, that's the first pillar of this Wizetics 7 pillar system. That's the first pillar of mind mapping. Why is mind mapping so important? I constantly emphasize it. Wherever the mind goes, everything else follows with you as an individual. And if you're not focused in your mind thoughts, and not just if you're not focused, you got to know what to focus on. So you have to be rooted in a certain way, having a certain knowledge. Going back to what I always say, rooted in your purpose, knowing your purpose, aware of what it is that you are supposed to do. How do you figure out what it is you're supposed to do? It's rooted in uh, where you find yourself having a strong passion in, like a strong interest for, not one of those things where you just following the trends of what everybody else is doing. But if you can kind of like go back and study your upbringing and the things that you were attracted to when you were growing up, and strip away a lot of uh, the trendy aspects of it, meaning that you know a lot of people might have went to go see this one movie and you say, I just love this movie, so I like to watch this type of movie. But it's more of what is it about these type of movies that spark your interest, or you know um you were into sports real strongly, but what was it about the sports itself? Were you someone that was like taking the initiative in the sport that you were playing? you know um would, did you like the team connection that was going on, the camaraderie of the team? So it's things like that that you look at and see what was like sparking your interest and what captivated your attention along your journey and growing up into, through your adolescent stages, your young adulthood, and you can still be a young adult right now for some of you. And this is where you kind of like begin to pinpoint what your purpose is in life. So I'm gonna come from here in my Wizetics. When I talk about mindset mapping, it said if the mind ain't mapped, the mission won't move. Before you start the LLC, before you pitch the brand, before you chase you have to get clear on what's running the show inside your mind. Let's be real. Most of us are carrying scripts we didn't write. We inherited beliefs from family, society, trauma, and survival. Things like money don't grow on trees. Play it safe. You got to grind 24/7 to make it. These beliefs shape how we show up in business, relationships, and opportunities. But what if those beliefs are outdated software? What if you're trying to run $1 million vision off a broke mindset? That's why the first pillar of Wizetics is mindset mapping, because nothing changes externally until we rewire internally. So you got to have an identity audit. Who are you without the noise? Let's start here. Not with what you do, not with what you post, with who you are. Ask yourself, what titles am I attached to? What fears have I made part of my personality? What wins am I afraid to pursue because they don't match how people see me? You can't build a legacy while stuck in an identity built on struggle and survival. Mindset mapping clears the fog. It gets you back to truth, because when you know who you are, no market condition can shake you. When you know who you are, no market condition can shake you, because you're grounded and rooted in your purpose. And this is where we get into emotional intelligence, the CEO inside you. Every successful entrepreneur I've coached had one thing in common. They could regulate their emotions under pressure. You can't lead a business if you can't lead yourself through disappointment. EI, emotional intelligence, is more than a buzzword, it's a leadership asset. Here's your quick EI protocol. Pause. Don't react off impulse. Name it. Is it fear, ego, frustration, or insecurity? Process it. Journal, meditate, breathe, respond with strategy. Your vision deserves more than your first emotion. So that's mindset mapping. That's the mindset mapping pillar. The first pillar of the Wizetics 7 pillar, or the 7 pillars of Wizetics, which is integrated into a full life business framework, which is Wizetics OS life biz infrastructure. Um, okay. And so, how do you map your mind? How do you increase emotional intelligence? So, there are different types of exercises that can do that. But one main thing is mindfulness. They call it like mindfulness meditation. So it's like you paying attention to the thoughts that's going on in your head. Take a look at your thoughts. Like just take a sit back. Just step back from everything that's going on. Sit down. Find a place that you could just sit down to yourself. You might got to go in the bathroom somewhere, go into a room somewhere. And sometimes you might be in an environment where there's just so much noise going on, so much taking place. Right? Take a step back. Sometimes you might got to do it in the middle of the night, early morning, and just pay attention to what you're thinking. Like analyze your thoughts. Analyze like the things that you like to do. Analyze the things that you don't like to do. Think about the things that get you to feel certain ways. Just pay attention to those things for a moment. And strive to go back into your history of yourself and how you were raised as a child, things you went through, and in most cases you'll find a lot of trauma from these things when you go to look back at certain things that you experienced in your upbringing. So this is the part about rewire. You got to rewire things. You got to go back and remember the first time you experienced an emotion, something that you remember as a little child, the first time you ever experienced an emotion, meaning that remember the first time that you experienced an emotion. Now, you probably can't remember the very first time that you actually experienced an emotion, but see if you can remember the first time that you became aware of an emotion that you were having as a child. Just look at those things. And what you will see is you responded or reacted to something that was going on. Take a look at what was going on. Can you remember what was happening? What was the scenario? Could be um, you had an interaction with an older sibling. You fell down and hurt yourself, or you wanted something from your parents and you didn't get it, and you felt certain things about that. Or um, you had an experience with a friend. It wasn't a good experience. You felt sad, or you cried about something. You lost a family member when you were young. You cried about it, or whatever. Just think about those things. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this part because it requires a little bit more hands-on, like mentorship, because you want to be able to understand that it's the way you think about situations that allows you to experience what you feel about the situation. Is what you think about the situation. So it's your perception, your belief system, the things that you have constructed as a system of belief, meaning that this is what I believe. And then most of the time it's coming from just traditional stuff that was just passed down to you from your parents or certain older people that had a role in your life. And you just pick up on these sound bites. You pick up on these things. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do when this happened. This is how I'm supposed to feel when this happened. You kind of like been shaped and molded to feel things according to, what certain people around you projected to you in their way of handling whatever they encountered in their experience in living. Now, sometimes you might not be able to see how something of that nature or something from that time frame of your life has an effect on you right now. And I don't want to get too deep into this part of it, but this is a part where you have to really dig deep within yourself, though. And I don't really want to get too deep right now, per se, because it becomes like a sensitive, delicate subject when you start to like dig into emotional development. But that's something that you have to engage in order to really grow and develop high levels of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is something that allows you to be, it's like situational awareness, emotional awareness, be able to detect things from being sympathetic, empathetic, and knowing how to shift in the midst of. So I'm gonna look something up. I'm gonna see what is a textbook definition of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. So it says emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, EI or EQ, is the ability to understand, manage, and use your own emotions as well as recognize and influence the emotions of others. It includes skills like self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And it helps with problem solving, communication, and building relationships. Emotional intelligence is a key skill for personal and professional success and is considered a measure of one's emotional capabilities, distinct from cognitive ability, which is IQ. The key components of emotional intelligence: self awareness, recognizing and understanding your own emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behavior; self regulation, the ability to manage and control your emotional responses rather than acting on impulse; motivation, the drive to achieve goals despite setbacks or negative feelings; empathy, understanding and sharing the feelings of others; social skills, the ability to build and manage relationships, including communication and conflict resolution. So it's saying the benefits of emotional intelligence: improved relationships. By understanding and managing your own emotions and those of others, you can form stronger and more effective connections. Better decision making. The ability to blend thinking and feeling can lead to more optimal choices. Effective communication. Emotionally intelligent individuals can communicate more clearly and empathetically. Conflict resolution. Understanding emotions is crucial for de escalating conflict and finding solutions. Resilience. It helps people handle stress, adapt to challenges, and remain calm under pressure. So that's what it's saying about emotional intelligence. And I just Googled it. I just looked it up. And I recall going through the curriculum in my psychology classes. Emotional intelligence was filtered out all through, or it was like it was seasoned out throughout the whole course in different aspects of um psychology, my psychology course. So now here's the thing: how do you develop emotional intelligence? Because this just describes what emotional intelligence is. So it's like, okay, how do you become self-aware? How do you build up self-awareness? How do you increase self-regulation? How do you um be motivated? How do you have empathy? How do you, how do you develop social skills? How do you develop the ability to build and manage relationships? How do you get the drive to achieve goals despite setbacks or negative feelings? How do you manage and control your emotional responses rather than acting on impulse? See that one right there. How do you manage and control your emotional responses rather than acting on impulse? Because what I'm doing, I'm reframing this whole thing, because this just explain what emotional intelligence is, but it's not telling you how to develop it. This is where I'm coming in with my uh expertise in this field. So you say, oh, you're an expert in emotional intelligence. Yes. The way you develop emotional intelligence, grow high levels of emotional intelligence, it starts with self-awareness. It starts with having a knowledge base that's rooted in facts, that's rooted in reality. And so the more your knowledge is rooted in reality and facts, it takes it out of just having to be belief, or I just think this, or I just, I don't really know, but I'm just acting out on faith on it. The more knowledge you have from a factual basis, the more confidence you have. The more confidence you have, the more self regulation you have, the more self awareness takes place. So it's kind of like a holistic thing where it's interconnected, it's interrelationships. What do you do to develop these things? So if you don't already have a factual knowledge base, sometimes people don't realize that they don't got that. Some people think that what they believe to be is actually true. So they can be moving through life, encountering situations that are fundamental experiences that all people grow through, or not grow through, but go through. And because you might not be having the right knowledge base, the right knowledge foundation, you can't grow through it. Like grow. You go through, but sometimes as you go through something, you get stuck in it. So now you stuck at a certain place in your mind, in your way of thinking that is keeping you stuck within a cyclic pattern, and you're repeating certain things over and over regardless of the situation. You still bringing into every situation the same um thinking process. You're bringing into each situation the same type of attitude, the same type of belief system. So therefore, you get in the same results regardless of the people, places, and things. So that means it's an internal thing. So you got to work on inside yourself. It's something you got to work on from the inside, and that takes a lot of initiative. It takes a lot of initiative to do that. So mindset mapping for money moves. So instead of fooling his money will soon depart. So we talking about now financial intelligence. And in a time where the economy is shifting, people are getting laid off, the government shut down, SNAP benefits kind of like frozen or not being dispersed in the usual format, or in some cases not being dispersed at all. This puts a lot of pressure on people. So now people who are entrepreneurs, people who are in leadership positions in whatever aspect of leadership, this is where you have to be providing the proper leadership, proper guidance, stripped of emotional reactions, knee-jerk reactions, or just being so emotionally burdened that now your decisions are counterproductive, meaning they don't provide a real solution for what the problem is. And that's why I say the servant that kneweth Lord's will and prepared not himself shall be beaten with many stripes. Preparation. Is a proper preparation prevents poor performance. So it's preparation. But what good is to talk about preparation if you're already experiencing something that's considered to be a, um, a disastrous situation? You're already in the middle of a disaster. You're already in the middle of a situation that is like overwhelming. Like, I'm just going through something right now. Yeah, I know I should have prepared, but I didn't prepare. But I'm here now. What do I do? This is where the collectiveness comes in, because when we experience what we consider to be pain, it's a signal to you to pay attention to something. Like, you touch something and it's hot and you jump, it's hot. That's a signal to you to not be in this area, like not to be dealing with that, because that's that space right there where the hot, that's stove is right here. Situational awareness. Yo, don't go over there. That's that space being occupied by something that's hot. Change your movement up. That's what it is when we experience certain aspects of pain, what we consider to be painful. Like, I don't like to call something a painful situation. And what you will find is, in the Wizetics way, it's a lot of things that you might not have thought about. And then when it's presented to you, it's like, wow, light bulb moment. Oh, I never thought of that. But once you hear it, it's like, I should have thought of that. Like, that's so true. You're right. That's how enlightenment hits you. So I provide you with some information, some knowledge, and then you're like, whoa, okay, I see that. I can see that. I see that. Why do you see that? Because it's light there for you to see in a area where it was ignorance on it, which was like darkness. So you didn't really have insight on this, but it was there though. It's like you walking into a dark room, it's furniture there. You just don't see it. But it's been there the whole time. The furniture was there in the room before you got there. You didn't know that the furniture was there because you didn't see the furniture. But then once a light sparks, or you turn a light on that lights up the whole room, you're like, oh, you can see everything. So the situational awareness is based off of light, insight. Light gives you the ability to see. In darkness, you can't see. All you in darkness, only thing you see is darkness. So that's ignorance. When you're ignorant, you don't know. You're just illiterate to something. You don't know. And then when you get access to the knowledge that allows you to know, the light hits you. And then you be like, oh, okay. Because see, when we talking about situational awareness, if you go into a dark room and there's furniture in there and you just start walking, you bumping into things. Boom, you bump into this, you bump into that, and you walking with no shoes on, no socks, and you hurting your feet. Oh, and you might stumble and fall, or you might knock something down that falls on top of you. Let alone if you running in a room that got furniture in it and it's dark, moving fast. But in the dark, you're moving slow. Allow you to, touch your way around a little bit. You feeling your way around. You moving through your feelings, trying to feel your way through, which is, the movement becomes more slow because you don't want to hurt yourself, or because you don't know what you know now. You don't know what's in the room. But when you got the light on, you can just move real fluently. Your situational awareness becomes of a more higher degree because, okay, I know there's a couch right there, so I walk this way. I know this is over there, so I go that way. So you begin to move in different ways based off the light, because the light gives you the ability to know how to move, to see where to move to, where not to move to. So that's mindset mapping for money moves. You got to know how to move. In order for you to move, you got to have direction, situational awareness. So now we're talking about emotional intelligence. The situational awareness is now, connected into what I'm saying, emotional intelligence. Your ability to be self-aware, self-regulate, have empathy, know how to direct conversation, effective communication. How does that translate to money moves? That translate because money is a medium for exchange. So money is a form of communication. Money is a form of communication. What is it communicating? It's communicating value. Now, if you don't know the language of the money, you might not be able to understand what value that's being communicated, because a lot of times what you see on the face value might not be the real value, because you might say, oh, this is $100 bill, but it don't necessarily mean that this $100 bill is $100 worth in this value of purchasing power, the purchasing power. And that's another subject. That's something else that's, it takes more time to get to be able to make sense to you when you hear these things. And that's why, I keep bringing these brothers up, Wall Street Trapper. You be like, oh, you giving them, shouting them out and directing people to them. Yeah, because they got what they do. See, what they do, that's not what I'm doing. Like, I'm not giving you stock plays. Yo, invest in this stock right here. That's what they do. What I do is I'm giving you the mindset, the foundation that you're going to need to be able to navigate through all of that. I'm giving you the light. I'm giving you light so that you can see with situational awareness where the furniture at in the room, where to move at, where not to move at. That's what I'm providing you with light to see by, to make decisions from, giving you a foundation, a knowledge base, so you can make wise decisions. That's the Wizetics way. Wisdom is the way. Wisdom is the way. But wisdom is a manifestation of knowledge. Wisdom is a reflection of knowledge. Knowledge is what you know. You acquire knowledge through look, listening, observing, and respecting. This is the order of operations, which I call supreme mathematics. And so that's my personal regiment. So when we talking about mindset mapping for money moves, we are talking about you in a predicament, you got laid off. I got this thing I know how to do. I got this side hustle that I've been doing. I've been doing hair, I've been cutting hair, I've been doing hair, I've been doing nails, or I've been making food and selling a few dishes, or I've been, marketing stuff on social media, posting, blogging, vlogging. I've been doing this. So let me turn it up. Let me put a little bit more investment into these things to monetize these things on a level where I can take care of myself and my family and then expand out and abroad to my community and fulfill my destiny, my purpose in my life. That's what that's about. That's mindset mapping for money moves where you get in. So let me say this too, because in what I was doing yesterday, I was speaking about how the competition exists. You have people competing in the wrong places. And you probably couldn't hear me that well. If you go back and look at it, it was something going on with the sound. So I'm gonna give a little bit about this now. Yo, I'm not your competition. Who you want to compete against me for? It's other people who you should be thinking about competing against in a way where we talking about when you start talking about the black agenda, when you start talking about us as black people and where we come from in this country, black Americans per se, and the experiences that we have had since the days of chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, and even for those black people that were already here, that was already on this land, occupying this land, whether you were already here or you came here through the transatlantic slave trade, you still ended up in the same situation of oppression and your history being stripped away from you. You're not really knowing your origin and understanding what your system of life was in a government form. And you might know a little bit about it. The Iroquois, um, different stuff is documented about those things, but not to get too caught up on that. My point is the experiences that we have had in this country, in this land mass, before it was the United States, but just even when it was just the colonies, the British Empire, all that stuff going on, and even down in South America from the Portuguese and the Spaniards and then the English and the French, just basically the Europeans doing whatever they was doing and still doing to a certain degree in a more technological way. Yet with all of that going on, what are you competing against me for? I'm the wrong person to be competing against. You should be competing for freedom, justice, and equality. You should be competing on a level to get freedom indeed. That's not anything radical. That's just what all civilized people do. That's just a natural course of human interaction. There's nothing radical about it unless you are someone who feeds off of entrapping somebody. So anybody that's talking about freedom, the only person who could be against freedom is somebody who wants to see you enslaved. Somebody who benefits off of you not being free. That's the only time that becomes radical. That so if I'm on a slave plantation, right, and I'm considered to be chattel property of this slave owner, when I say I want to be free from that, to him, you think you want to hear that? That's called for him. That's radical. Uh, The law says, because I got this paperwork on you, you're my property, classified as my property. My property just so happened. The property just so happened to be a living human being that got a will to choose. But the will to choose is restricted because of how the system is constructed with law. It's law. And let me get a little bit more deeper with that part. When you think about uh, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, Paul Revere, uh, uh, all the people, the pioneers, the forefathers of the United States of America, and the government is structured. And you have the Constitution, United States Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. The people who became judges, Supreme Court judges, because they set up the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, call it checks and balances in the republic, Democratic Republic. When you got that in place, we are not talking about ignorant people putting that together. We're not talking about just people that's reacting, just white supremacist, ignorant type of individuals. The white supremacist part there, but I'm not saying they're not ignorant though. We're talking about highly educated people that constructed legislation that became law that said you as a black individual is subjected to being property of white individuals, right? So, not to even go back to where was the first part of the trade deal taking place, meaning that what was the transaction going on? So they say, oh, certain people were kidnapped, certain people were sold into slavery, certain people were kidnapped into slavery. Okay, now we going down, and now we just talking about, okay, this man and this woman had a baby. That baby, oh, I can take that baby if I'm the slave owner of this person. I take this baby right here, raise this baby up. That's labor force. The law said that was okay. So now for me to seek to be free from that, I'm breaking the law. I just broke the law if I run away. If I'm on the plantation and this person says, "Oh, you belong to me. I got paperwork on you saying that I own you. I have documents to prove that I own you." And according to the law of the land and in this locale in this, colony or this state now, you belong to me and you don't have the right to go away. Whatever I tell you to do, you have to do. If I say, yo, the law says you can't read, got to keep you ignorant. That's the law. Why is that? Because that is good economics. If the economy is a slave economy, this is good economics. So that's what that's about right there. So now anything that speaks towards freedom becomes radical talk. It becomes, what are you doing? And it's a disruption from the economy that's set a certain way for people to benefit in the way that they structured themselves to be able to benefit from it at the expense of someone else who they have deemed to be, this is your destiny. You meant to be this way. It's meant for me to be able to put you into this system of slavery, chattel slavery, another human being being able to own you as their property. That's just what it was. We evolve and go through different stages: emancipation, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, all those things. But each step of the way, there was a challenge of fighting with the law that was already set by educated white men, putting it down to say it's the best interest for us. So this is what I say: you should not be competing with me. If you're black, you got your business, you got your podcast, you got your whatever you got. We are not each other's competition. You should be competing for your freedom to be able to move in a world like the planet Earth, right? The planet Earth belongs to God. So you should be able to move freely as long as you're not transgressing against someone else's um situation. So this is where emotional intelligence comes in. The sympathy, the empathy, self-regulation, self-awareness, management of emotions. That's what all this is about. But the belief system, though, the foundation, the mindset, if you believe that this should be this way and you're not really understanding from a position of empathy and you don't have factual knowledge, but you just feel that this should be this way, and let's say you got disinformation or misinformation and you got a whole system of it, and you say, well, you supposed to be treated this way. You supposed to be experiencing this because this is what God said in the Bible or the Torah, something like that. Or this is what Darwin said. That's what I'm talking about. So the way to rise above these things is knowing how to connect with collectiveness with your own people and knowing how to coexist with other people. Because I'm not pro-black nor am I anti-white. I'm just pro-righteousness, anti-establishment. So this ain't got nothing to do with no religion. It's just being right and exact as a righteous person. So when we say mindset mapping for money moves, you gotta start with your mind awareness of who you are, what's your purpose, who are you, what's your identity, and how do you coexist with everything else around you? How do you coexist with the people, places, and things around you in a way that you can still be able to be beneficial and increasing your growth and development and experience love, peace, and happiness without disrupting natural order of genuine demands of other people? And I'll break that down another time. But this is our time right here for Wizetics Mental Wealth Podcast Live. You know, if you like what you heard, you want to hear more, you can catch me. You can call me, schedule a call, discovery call, 1-888-704-0864. You can follow me on IG, Allah King Wise, Wise Consultancy Global, on my website, wisenetworks.biz. That's wisenetworks.biz coming across your screen. You can book a call from the website. Got a smart website, integrative website. You want one of those website developers? We got developers who put you in the position where you can have that AI, because AI taking a lot of people's jobs on certain levels. But for those who know how to use AI, learning AI and leveraging AI, you get to stay competitive in the market. This is what it's about. Mindset mapping for money moves. Peace.